Hey everyone, Cynics here, and I'm back for my second video for the month of anime. And I'll be honest with you guys, this video is not super anime, but in case you're worried, don't be, because next week's video is going to be painfully anime. But anyway, as you can see from the title of the video, this one is going to be all about drawing Junkrat from Overwatch, because that game's great and Junkrat is the best character. So you can see here, I started off with this weird looking chibi Junkrat, but I decided to get rid of that and try something different. And you may notice I'm going to be doing this whole drawing painting process in the most Junkrat way possible, and that is to be using an MSPaint style where I'm just using pixel brushes and paint bucket fill tools. It just feels like the Junkrat thing to do. So anyway, you can see here I started this drawing with just a hand, and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but this is one of the ways I really love to draw in just a very organic way without really any pre-planning whatsoever. So I made a hand that I kind of liked, and then I decided to really go back with the foreshortening and have an arm really getting smaller, so we're gonna have some really strong perspective effects, hopefully. And you may have noticed that I don't have any real strong idea as to what I'm doing with this drawing yet. I had it 90 degrees in the opposite direction just a moment ago, which is how it started, but I was struggling with how to draw the face and form the rest of the body from that, so I thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll just flip it a little bit, and that might make things a little bit easier, and I think it has, although I'm still struggling with a couple of the body parts here and there. But this is a good time to take a break and actually step away from the piece for a little bit. So I took a little break, which is always a great idea to do when you're working on a piece. Just, walk away from it for a little bit. Then when you walk back, you'll have completely fresh eyes. So I like to take a little crit break every time I do that. And there's a few things I wanted to fix. One is just the hand. Hand was a little weird. He's got that really tiny pinky finger, so I'll have to do something about that. And he also didn't have his gloves, which I checked the reference, and he should have gloves. And I tried to fix his little presser thing also and make the hair silhouette a little stronger because it was looking a little too rounded. So there's just a lot of little things that you might not notice if you don't take breaks every now and then. But anyway, I'm trying all kinds of crazy perspective stuff with the legs. It's not quite working. You could say that this is the downside of doing drawings in such a weird fashion, but I actually think it's a lot of fun just to experiment around and try as many weird ideas as you can. Of course, it helps that I'm not using guidelines and I'm just doing it very quickly and roughly and trying to get a good energy. But I think I found a leg I like with this one. I'm gonna have him kind of stepping on or kicking or pushing, or I don't know what he's about to do. He's gonna have a little landmine under his foot. Maybe he's about to jump off it. That's, one of the most fun things to do with Junkrat is to just bounce around off your own mines. So I thought that worked okay. And I just put his little peg leg back there as well. And I tried to break the tangents with his other mechanical arm. But here you can see one of the best things to do with backgrounds and shadows and everything is to try to complement your composition and your tangents and everything that you've already established. So one of the best things to use shadows for, you can see that shadow on the ground there, is to really sell your graphical design elements. So I tried to make that shadow as graphical as I could and really kind of accentuate the pose that I have him in. And I'm doing the same thing with the background and the clouds as well. So I'm not really thinking about them in terms of, okay, this is just going to be a background. I want to think about it in terms of what's going to be elements of graphical design that are going to complement him. And, it's a little bit mixed right here because there's some weaknesses and some strengths. I like that I curved it a lot and it brings it back around into the character, but I think I made everything a bit too U-shaped. It all kind of funnels in, and I should have definitely brought it out a little bit on the bottom with a curved lens effect. But anyway, I'm actually doing something that I never do, but someone mentioned that my work does not look anime ever because I use so much line weight. So I thought, you know what? I haven't actually tried cleaning up lines in a super long time. So let's just do it. And I'm using a 1 pixel brush, the old classic MSPaint standby 1 pixel drawing brush. So it's gonna look a little weird, but I think it will be okay. We'll have these nice clean lines anyway that we'll be able to use our fill bucket on. And, you know, I think it's okay. I don't know if I like it better with line weight or without line weight. It's a little bit up in the air, but I think this is certainly a fun approach that I haven't done lately, and it's good to constantly be trying different things. So I'm actually going to demonstrate something interesting here, and I'm just going to be laying in colors really willy-nilly. I'm not going to think too much about them. I'm just going to lay in any color that seems about right. A little trick I use that I just thought up, which is not that exciting. Everything that was white, I just turned it to a dark gray, so that way when you're using your paint fill tool, you won't get a lot of white pixels in the little separations. So I thought that was a little bit of a good tip. If you ever, I don't know why anyone would ever draw like this, but if you're ever in MS Paint and you just need to get something done for production, maybe you can try doing that to make things a little cleaner. But here you can see the point of this little color experiment, and that was to show you that even though you might pick colors that you think are good or that you think are interesting, you always have to check how your art looks in black and white. You always need to check the grayscale values, because when I checked the grayscale values, obviously the mountains were just blending straight into the sky. You couldn't even see that there were mountains or a background there. And the sky should always be lighter than the horizon mountains. And I wanted to make the clouds a little more graphical, so I brought them all the way up to white, because we're doing something cartoony. We can afford to go straight to the extremes. But you can see here, flipping it off and on, it definitely made a huge difference on how the background looks. You can actually read the background a little bit, and just all the values of everything feel a little more appropriate. So I'm gonna zoom ahead once again, and now I'm gonna actually pick colors based on the values. So I have this little value map that I've established, and now I can go through and just pick each value and then find a color just anywhere on the color wheel using that value, and it should be able to look good in the end. So I can get a little crazier with my colors. I wanted to see how it would look if I did these like orange sky. Obviously I have these very purple shadows and everything. I wanted to imply that it's maybe, I don't know, sundown, sun up, because we can have these long shadows. It's a very pretty time of day to be drawing or painting. You can get more dynamic stuff in, and I think it's a little more interesting. It's a little more unique than the standard blue sky. So there were a couple little things I wanted to do. Obviously, I didn't want to add any shading because we just want to make flat colors everywhere. But there were a couple little pieces that needed texture, such as just having a little gradient over his face, because even without shading, he still needs a little bit of darkness around the face area because that's central to the character. And these shorts needed a bit of a camouflage pattern because that is also a central part of the character. But everything else I don't think needs any shading or texture stuff at all. Alright, I guess that's about it for the drawing. I know it's a bit weird and you're probably not going to be doing any MS Paint style art in the near future, but maybe you'll try it out. It's definitely a good way to focus on graphical elements instead of rendering, because your graphical sense is definitely super important, and I don't think people nurture it enough. So anyway, that is our Junkrat, using some very Junkrat techniques and a little hint of anime flair thrown in. I do want to give some parting critiques because it is super important to always be critiquing your work. One thing that stands out to me is just the hand and the silhouette of his body. You can see that the hand that's close to us, and especially the little pinky sticking out, that the tangents of that actually mirror the legs a lot. So the tangents of his pinky are mirroring the tangents of his peg leg, and the tangents of the rest of his hand are kind of mirroring the direction of the other leg. So you generally want to avoid stuff like that because it's not that appealing. And if I wasn't so lazy, I would have turned the hand maybe a bit in a different direction, just something to get the tangents away from mirroring each other. And the other thing is just with the fisheye lens effect, and that's a couple of the main things that jump out at me. I don't want to waste all your time talking about all the things that could have been better. But anyway, that's gonna do it, and I would like to thank all of my patrons for supporting these videos. You guys are great. And if you've never checked out my Patreon, you should, because it's got tons of bonus drawings and videos on it. One other quick promotional thing, I actually have my own promo code for Corel Painter now, so if anyone wants to buy Corel Painter, you can get $100 off with coupon code 2016RS. It's really cool that they decided to do that for us. Alright, thanks everyone.